Alright, so this is me doing like a video type journal, whatever. But I always felt like I was healing and I was doing the work of healing, right? But I never truly was getting to the core, even though I was working on myself. And I won't take that away because I think that's a part of the journey, is that you start to realize little things, and then you start to open up other books, and kind of sometimes we don't want to read it. We'll open up the book, but we won't read it, right? Or we'll read a couple chapters like, oh wow, that's good, but either it's boring or it makes us feel uncomfortable, or we decide that other things are more important than finishing that book. But I think you learn something from reading any book, and the same as like you learn by going through any other experience completely. I think that analogy is really on point. I just came up with that. I was like, oh shit, like, but I kind of go through that at open books. I don't finish them for different reasons, right? But there's something valuable in learning about yourself, and it's not the easiest. It's the most difficult thing. And I remember like when I lived in New Mexico, and I started like my positive affirmations. I started doing my thing on losing weight, and I think also I attached losing weight into like my happiness. It's a whole nother subject, but I was like doing things the right way, right? What's taught to us, like the cliche things, like, you just gotta believe in yourself and tell yourself these things. But if you don't look into why you don't believe in yourself, it kind of contradicts, because you're kind of, I don't want to say lying to yourself, but that's how it was. Just like I was lying to myself. I never fully believed that by my life. I just told myself this, right? And that is kind of right when I manifest, but also I'm putting positive energy and actions and effort into these things, and I'm doing that at the same time, having those moments where I'm like, no, I don't believe it. Because why? Because when I was younger, I wasn't told anything positively. I was told that I'm worthless, ugly, no one will want me. And that's the core to why my whole being of myself and everything that I try to do and don't do is because I don't feel like I'm worthy of it, because I was told that. But now that I know where that thought comes from, it's like, oh shit. But now it's not just like, oh, one and done. Like, okay, I recognize it, I can move on from it. That's not how it works at all, which is the shittiest part, because now I kind of had to reprogram my brain, right, and remind myself. Obviously, I'm not gonna remind myself like the most traumatic things, but it happens, right? Because you're unfolding these things, and I see why people like don't do like real fucking healing work, because it doesn't feel good at all. It's almost like I'm going through an identity crisis, because everything that I thought I was, and all the things that people put onto me, like, oh, you're just, you have anger issues, oh, you just don't want to listen, or you're being impulsive. Like, those were all things I was doing because of my trauma. And not even doing those things, meaning that's how my brain functions to respond. I was like out of control of that because I was just a child. Then this child became an adult but didn't recognize any of these things, because it was just like, oh, it happened to me, that's it, that's what I normal. It could have been worse, right? Something I think a lot of people use, oh, it could have been worse, oh, no. It could have, but it was bad. It still was traumatizing. Even from some people that just go through their parents getting a divorce, it's traumatizing. It's your parent leaving you. It causes you to feel abandonment on the smallest of scales, right? To go into abuse, and then the types of abuse, and you comparing and all those things. And just think the part that I'm really unpacking now is the sexual trauma, and it's something that I ignored. I'm a pretty transparent, open person, open with my story, but the one thing I really don't talk about is that at all, and it's for many reasons, but just, I guess, having to conceptualize that it did happen. It's real. It was wrong. It wasn't my fault. It's saddening because I think if it's your fault, then then you don't have to believe that this world is not so good, and there's a lot of people that don't have good intentions, and there's a lot of people that don't care about how their actions affects other people, and it does matter. And just to grasp that concept is just gonna be hard for me to want to be around. It's been really difficult for me to want to be around people. Everything doesn't feel real anymore. Cause leaving my ex was the ending and the beginning of all my unpacking, because for that, something to extreme like that to happen, like, for me to have to cover my head and my face and roll up in a ball, not to protect myself. So, if he hit someplace that it wouldn't be a place where it could paralyze me or damage my brain, whatever, that's what I would do. And to be put in that place woke me the fuck up. I was like, how did this happen, right? And I started this whole journey learning about narcissists, personality disorders, and BPD and codependency, and I was just reacting what I went through with my mother, and I thought that by me doing that, it was gonna be like my first relationship. Like, I thought I was clear of the stat, right? I know, right? I forgot the probability. I don't know it, but it's a very high probability if you went through childhood abuse that you will be in a domestic violent relationship, right? Whether that be emotional, physical, financial, sexual, right? There's different types of abuse. It doesn't always be physical, all right? But I still became it, and I did it when I was at that place where I lost all this weight. I, had a new job, I had my own place. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm brand new, I'm good. But I wasn't, because I still was repressing my old self. I never acknowledged why I had to tell myself these positive affirmations. It was just like I was doing it to do it. It helped me. I still motivated, but it wasn't really true motivation. It was more like I wanted to do it so people could want me. I lost weight so people could be like, see me. I didn't do it because I didn't understand how deeply rooted for me to be seen is so important to me, and why it affects me in my day-to-day life, and how I interact with people, how I get into these relationships with people, my interactions with others, how people react to me, all these things into account. And I met him at what I thought was my prime mentally. I was like, I'm so good, I'm focused, I have all these goals set out, and it got swept under me. Almost like you thought you was healed, but no, you still didn't feel good even though you lost 50 pounds. I still felt like I wasn't good enough. I still felt like I had something to prove. I still didn't feel comfortable in my skin. I still wasn't being myself. And he seen right through that. He knew, all right, and he knew me before I had lost weight. So we dated briefly when I was bigger, and then we met up again when I moved back to New York, and then I had lost X amount of weight, and that was the smallest I've ever been in my life since I was like, I think 14, 15. I had lost like a certain amount of weight when I was like in the middle school, freshman year of high school, and then slowly I started to gain weight again. So I've been big basically all my life. So it was just a piece of my life, but it's just so it's so interesting and complex, because I think that does take a big part of the whole situation. And it's just crazy for me to think about and put together. I feel like I lost track what I was saying in the video. All I want to say is that situation made me think, like, I can never let this happen again to me. And I had to find out how did this happen, because I was the person that said, this would never happen to me. It would never happen to me. I was the fighter. I'm the person that is ready to punch someone in their face, right? So even my friends and families were, they're like, you don't listen to anybody. How would you manage to get controlled by someone if you don't? That's like something, that's my core of my being. But before it got there, it started off differently. It didn't start there, right? It started off with him. Of course, it's typical story, love bombing. He was super nice, treated me well, and there was a time gap. So I was like, wow, this person really changed. It's been 5 years, and I thought 5 years constitute as enough time for someone to change. And I know it sounds contradictory because I've changed, but people don't change. Certain things about people don't change. And for how it looks in different people, it looks different ways. It doesn't have to always be negative. It could be positive as well. But people do change.